Thanks so much for joining the replay of day 22 and 23 of 31 Days to Love Your Lettering, March edition. Today we're talking about modern calligraphy, and we're also going to talk about flourishing with the brush pen. Good evening. Sorry, my cheeks are a little flushed. We just got finished with dinner. That's why we're just a couple minutes late. Hi, Elisa. Never enough time. Can you remind me of your first name? Because I don't remember it yet. Thanks for joining. I'll just take a minute. Hopefully everyone's day went well. It's been kind of crazy here, and that's kind of one of the things that I'd like to update this evening. Kind of keep you guys in the loop as to what's going on in the coming weeks. Hey! Lots of my afternoon ladies are back. Lana, I'm sure it's, if you could, hello Megan. All right. So, many of you know that this weekend I will be moving to our new house, which gets me incredibly excited but awfully overwhelmed. And I've really tried to do a good job about packing in between everything else we need to do, but it has become abundantly clear that I need to focus on just packing because our moving truck will be here on Saturday. And we're not all ready. My art desk is still not completely packed. It's mostly packed, but not completely packed. So that's why I'm putting day 22 and 23 together, because I am fairly certain that I will not be able to scope tomorrow night. We do have the final walkthrough of our new home, and so I know I'm not going to be able to hop on tomorrow night, probably, because it'll be kind of chaotic. Plus, it's Good Friday. I don't know if any of you celebrate the full Easter holiday, but when we do have downtime, we're going to actually use it. I have bread to make today for communion tomorrow, so that's why we're combining day 22 and 23 today. And if you're brand new here and wondering what's going on, my name is Lisa. I blog at CreativLEI.com, which is looking at life creatively. And we're talking about day 22 and 23 of 31 Days to Love Your Lettering. It's a series that I originally wrote in the fall of 2015. And this month, we've just been going through the live demonstrations of the lessons that are already on the blog. And those lessons are very self-paced. The instruction is there on what to do, the assignment for the day. It should take between 5 and 15 minutes. There's kind of a step-by-step instruction, and then there's a video embedded at the bottom, which is a recording of the fall demonstrations. So this is just kind of to complement what was already recorded in the fall. My hope was to move some of these videos over to YouTube for those that have been asking, but it seems that throughout the month, not everything has caught cleanly on Catch, and not cleanly on Periscope either. So I'm going to go ahead and look into different methods of filming to get some of these videos over on YouTube for anyone who's interested in that. And I think I might not have a great signal tonight because I can see some of you coming and then having to come back in, which makes me think that maybe it's not a great signal tonight. You'll have to let me know if that's the case. So next week, I am going to be kind of between two houses. We start moving in this weekend at the new house, and then we close on the sale of this house on Thursday of last week. Oh, okay, it's good there. So what that means is I am going to have very spotty internet connection, and my desk is probably not going to be one of the first things set up. Surprise, surprise. I know. It's it's kind of disappointing. It will be set up very quickly, but probably not one of the first things, unfortunately. I think we're supposed to do bedrooms first. But anyway, so I spoke to the girls in the afternoon session to just let you guys know that we'll take next week off of the... What are you doing? My husband, who avoids Periscope filming, is over on the side doing a little, I don't know what. I think it might have been our dinner got to him. So next week, I will not be doing the 31 days. I'm going to take a week off and let you guys catch up and practice on the things that we've already covered. I know some of you are a little bit behind or want a little bit more time with the brush pen. And so hopefully that will give you a chance to catch up. And then starting April 4th, I will go through the final week of 31 Days to Love Your Lettering with you all. I know, he's totally distracting me. I thought the kids were bad. They're home on spring break and it's a little crazy around here. So yeah, so like tomorrow night might be our last night sleeping in this house. So it's kind of exciting. It's, yeah, it's like all kinds of crazy, happy, sad, bittersweet emotions going on around here. We've been in this home for 13 years, so we're pretty settled here. So kind of starting fresh, but really excited to do that. So with all that said, and hopefully I've gotten you guys clued in, and I will be on Instagram. I'll probably be on intermittently on, bless you, here on Periscope, just to kind of give you guys peeks into what's going on with us. But we'll resume 31 days on August 4th, and that will be the last week. There's, aside from tonight's 2 sessions, there's, I think, three more demonstrations. The watercolor paint, watercolor resist, and combining styles. And so we'll touch upon all that kind of stuff starting April 4th. So we're going to extend, yeah, April 4th. Did I say it wrong? So I'm telling you, I'm distracted. He's going to totally distract me tonight. Okay. I think, yeah, sure. So my fingertips are done like that, and they don't exactly match. They just complement each other. And then the insides, I've got my reminder for the week to breathe. And I've got a, oh, did I say August? Oh, goodness gracious. No, April. There's way too much going on. So we've got breathe and a rose and just the fingertips. Huh? So thank you guys for bearing with me. What do you need now? Sorry. So I am going to go ahead and flip the camera around and get us started on tonight's lesson. If you keep it up, I'm going to put the camera on you. So tonight we're talking about modern calligraphy, which kind of takes what we learned all this week and brings it together with just a little more flair. And then we're also going to talk about flourishes. So I'm going to go through the modern calligraphy first, and then after that we'll talk about the flourishes. And yeah, my notebook is a little bit out of order. And if you're new to this craziness and wondering what's going on, here's where you can find all the information about the lettering series, as well as where to find me on other areas of social media. And if you need to send me a message, because I've been so distracted during this scope that I didn't get your question, you can find me at any of these places. And the brushes that I'm using this week are the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pens. I'm using both the hard and the soft tips. So let's get to a clean page and get started. So, okay, so for tonight, I'm going to use the hard tip Fudenosuke pen because I find that the contrast of the thick and the thin with this pen is just really fabulous. If you are using this pen, keep in mind that you're going to have to exert a bit more pressure to get that downstroke, because that tip is a little bit rigid, so you may feel like you're damaging it, but you're not. But here's like the difference. So that's the soft tip, and I'll keep that handy because I'll show you. Okay, so I'm going to do an alphabet with kind of a modern flair, and modern calligraphy, something to keep in mind is that no two modern alphabets or no two calligraphers are going to do it exactly the same, because modern calligraphy really takes on kind of the flavor or flair of whoever's drawing it. So mine, when I do modern, it tends to be a bit more squished than than our regular cursive. So there's a couple of different B's. And the other thing to keep in mind is that, so if this is my baseline here, some of the letters are going to have portions that drop below. They're not necessarily descenders, but I'm going to allow the letters to dance a bit around those baselines and where they hit the waistline and stuff. So, and I'm going to do a couple of versions of some of the letters. Sorry, move that right out of the way. So some of them will look very similar to the cursive that we did yesterday, but it's really about how we put them together when we start to piece them into words. Do I ever use a brush tip that looks like a brush and is quite soft? Similar, do you have a specific brand that you're thinking? Okay, so now I'm going to leave some space. Oh, hey! How are you? We just finished dinner very late tonight. So I've got two different O's there. And I do two different P's as well. Oh, thank you. Okay, the micron brushes. I do have those, and when I'm done with this alphabet, I'll talk about the micron brushes a lot. I did show them yesterday. I like the fact that they are pigment ink, but I tend to not use them, mostly because it's a little bit harder with the left hand. Are you a lefty or a righty? Okay. The pen you have calls one end pencil. Oh goodness, that's a different language. That's one that I don't know. I'm going to do a bunch of the alphabet of capital letters as well. Sorry. What? Oh goodness. Guys, I'm so distracted tonight. And it's not all my fault. Okay. One end says brush and the other says bullet. Okay. You probably have this one. I like the dual brushes, but I will tell you that as a lefty, sometimes they're hard for me to use. I will show you when I'm done with this alphabet. I'll go ahead and demonstrate with that. So the capital letters are actually they look quite a bit like our cursive alphabet did yesterday. And really what's going to change the way they look is when I start to put them together with other letters and words. So we've got a couple different H's. Oh, this afternoon I did not leave enough space. Hopefully I'm leaving enough space tonight. Okay, so remember what I said yesterday. Sometimes when you're making that upstroke really light, you'll actually skip right over the page and you can go back over. Oh, hi, Joe. Yeah, pick it up, wherever you are. It's definitely self-paced, and you'll have I just was explaining that you guys will have another week to kind of catch up to us, because we are moving this weekend, and I'm going to need some time to do that, because I do not have everything packed yet. So my procrastination helps everyone. Yes, that's what I was going to touch upon. The bigger brush requires you to make bigger letters in order to have enough time to transition between the thick and thin lines. And if those that are left-handed, it's a little more tricky too because we're pushing the pen, and it does not like to be pushed. In fact, those felt tips will fray on us. Okay. You're right-handed and you still can't get it. Yeah, the bigger brushes are quite a bit to manage, and I'll definitely talk about that. Writing myself a little reminder. Okay. Okay. Now the S's, we can do those a couple different ways too. Or like our cursive. Well, I might actually have enough room tonight. Okay, so there's an alphabet of the modern style, but however your natural cursive is and what angle your slope is and the size of your bowls is going to affect how you draw a modern calligraphic alphabet. Because like I said, no two calligraphers will do it exactly the same because you really do put your own stamp on it and it kind of follows the way your hand will flow. So that was with the hard tip. Okay, so let's talk big brushes a little bit and then I'll answer any questions that I'll do a couple of words in modern style. Okay, so those of you that are using the dual brush, I'll do lefty first just because I'm left-handed, so that's a little bit easier. So something that I have to keep in mind when I'm using the dual brush, I actually have to change my hand position when I'm getting a downstroke and when I'm going up. Otherwise, I end up pushing this felt tip too much and it does not give me a pretty line at all. So if I'm coming down and now I'm going to come up, I'm actually going to bring the pen not exactly perpendicular, but I'm creating a much greater angle here. And then again, changing to come down. And you see I have to work quite a bit bigger in order to get that transition between the thick downstrokes and the more fine upstrokes. Okay, I'm not going to do a whole alphabet like this. Okay, so now those of you that are right-handed, let's see if I can do an E. That's a lot of movement. So now you're not pushing the pen, you're pulling the pen. So you will probably still have to change the angle of your hand just a little bit when you're getting that upstroke. And then come down a bit more on the broad side. So I should have not done that exit so thick. Let's see. The F. So again, my hand is not steady on the right, so you'll have to kind of give me grace there. So down, and then kind of, I'm very close to the tip in order to control that angle. So I have to smooth that out. So hopefully that helps. But so that's kind of the main thing to keep in mind. When you're using the broader felt tip brushes, you're going to need to work bigger. Thank you. It just takes I find that making the bigger brushes work takes more work on the user's end. Yeah, it's definitely kind of working closer to the tip helps, because then you'll have greater control over the angle that you have the nib at. But it is, you've got to work bigger, because if I was to work smaller, there's just that itty bitty little room in order to do that upstroke, and so you're going to lose a lot of the contrast anyway. So you're going to need to work quite a bit bigger. This one is, the bowl is 4 squares high, and then the stem is even a little bit bigger. So about 4 squares high, which is an inch on this side. Yeah. Or 5 squares is an inch on this side, sorry. So just slightly smaller than an inch, so probably an inch would even be better. So that's kind of the thing with that. And if you have the Pigma ones, it's very similar. Yeah, on the bigger brushes, I do. I don't have to do that quite as much on the smaller brushes, but even the Pigma brushes, now these are by Sakura, so that's the bold one, which is about the same size. So even that, I have to really kind of change my hand position in order to get that upstroke thinner. So this is actually a tad bit bigger than the Tombow dual brush. And here's a medium. So the medium is actually probably closer to the dual brush. So I do need to kind of bring my hand overhand in order to get an upstroke. So those of you doing it with your right hand, just if you're kind of pressing down on your downstrokes, when you're coming in for the upstrokes, if you kind of open up that angle just a little bit so that you're actually working on the tip instead of dragging the side of the brush, that may help you with the upstroke. Okay. So let's just write a couple of words. So it's hard when you're just doing the individual letters to show what I mean by dancing those letters. And if you are someone who likes to color and draw within the lines, modern is going to take a bit of time for you to let go. Now, do you see how none of these letters are descenders? However, I let pieces or, different strokes of the letter dance along that baseline. So, okay. So if this straight edge is my baseline, you can see that 1, 2, 3 letters had at least small parts that went underneath that baseline. It is difficult, and if you find it really challenging to do that when you're working on grid paper, get a piece of blank paper from your printer. I use Laser Bright from Staples, which is nice and smooth and doesn't beat up the pens. But if you are working without lines, you may actually have an easier time letting them dance than if you are working with the lines. So let's do another word since we're speaking of dancing. Okay, so now it's important to notice that I'm doing each letter on its own. They connect because I let the exit strokes of one letter and the next stroke of the next letter cross, but I'm not continuing right into the next letter. It's actually different steps. So this is one of my older brushes, so it's skipping a little bit. Okay, so again, if I put that on the baseline, you'll see that one of them dips below, one of them hits the baseline, that one almost hits the baseline, and then the D and the N are even above the baseline. Okay. Sorry, sometimes it's hard to talk and write at the same time because I'll write the wrong thing. So that kind of gives a better example, because now that I'm letting these letters dance, not straight on the lines, but kind of above and below, it allows me to nest the letters and words a little bit more in a more natural way than if I wrote everything on a straight line in kind of classic cursive. A letter that begins with F, I'm going to when I do flourishes, unless you want to see it now. Are there any other questions that I can maybe address about kind of giving it the modern styling? Because I am going to go ahead and talk through flourishing, because they kind of go together. Once you are on the kick of more modern calligraphy, then it's kind of natural to add in some flourishes, kind of bringing those, the jot of the letters over, or kind of going out with some flair on the exit strokes. So let's go ahead and skip ahead to flourishing, and then if we have other questions, I'll get to them, and hopefully I can stay focused. They've stayed upstairs the past few minutes, so that was kind of helpful. Okay, so first I'll go ahead and start with writing the word flourish. Okay, and so then we'll talk about a couple of the things that I do on this word. Okay, so just like when we were talking about using the broad tip calligraphy pen and flourishing on those letters, what you allow it to do is kind of make up for spacing issues, or sometimes it's just to add decorative elements, but sometimes it's to compensate for some spacing. So here are some of the parts that can be, and I should have done that a little bit different, or the L. So if I wanted to connect these two, I could, but I like them apart. So here on the capital F, I've really exaggerated the swirl of that, of the stem. And then I brought in the top cross of the F, and I brought that in with a swirl as well. The S I allowed to dip way below the baseline and brought that more swirled, and then brought an exit stroke out of the H. Now, these ascending letters, they could have been flourished differently. So let's try another H. So we've got an H here. Okay, so you can do it kind of like that, and so then so if you had it on a line and you had way too much space on the left and you wanted to kind of bring in some of that negative space, you could do it that way. We've got So now I've got the word and now you always start the second letter closer to the base of the first, and it doesn't look right. That is, a lot of that comes with time and playing with it. Most of the time when I'm doing lettering, I will start in pencil, even for these brush letters, just to get a feel for layout. So here on this ascender, I brought it up and then came back down with a swirl. See, what's another one? Okay. Oh, here's a fun one. So, you know, you've got your G, J, Y. So you've got all these descenders that usually just kind of hook there. So another one to do on these is, let's see, which one am I going to do? I will do two T's together. So this was my example from this afternoon. Okay, so now I've come up here and looped around on this descender, and I'm actually going to bring this up a little bit more. And now this one, I don't want to do the same thing as here. Instead, I'm going to come up and go that way. Okay, since I have two descenders, I don't want them to look exactly alike. I want to make the visual balance there kind of go both ways. And I can cross that. All right. So two T's. Okay, so what I like to do with two T's is stagger them a bit. So one is at the baseline and one is below the baseline. I will cross them together, and then this L, instead of doing it exactly like that one, I'll bring it that way. Okay. Let's do good old thank you. So we've got the T, got my ascender there for the H. So when I'm going to flourish a letter, I'll kind of write in the main parts of it and leave it to flourish after I've drawn out the whole word. I don't necessarily do the flourish while I'm writing in the word. So now this one, I'll come back and I'm going to, where normally this would have been my upstroke, I'm going to go down, but I'm going to go down with light pressure because what I want this H to do is cross the T. Okay. I'll curl that up and put a little terminal on there. And then I could also come out from the E if I needed to, the same that we did with the broad tip calligraphy pen. Okay. Hi, Sylvia. Right. So now, some of the other ways to practice flourishing are, and I have a pencil for this because it's really, the pencil is a good way to practice them. There's just some basic strokes, and if you've looked at day 23 on the site, then you'll see that I've gotten just examples of some of the different loops and swirls of flourishes. So you want to go up and over. You can make the infinity signs. If you don't want to go right to the infinity sign, like the many repeats of that, because that actually does take quite a lot of practicing to find that rhythm of your thin, thick, thin, thick. But it's a good one to work at. So of course we've got all the descenders that come down. We want to loop those. We can add a swirl onto a capital letter, And that ends up looking like one of those type of swirls. I know, very technical terms here, right? And then, of course, coming off any ascenders, you can curl them back around. It almost looks musical. So if that was an ascender. Trying to give you an idea of some of the different ways to curl Q. Oh, thank you. Sylvia adds many, many years of just drawing lots and lots of alphabets. So, if you want to warm up your hand for flourishing, do some swirls. Do them in both directions. So, anything you're working on, work on it in both directions. And the more you work on those things, you'll start to feel that those motions will become a little bit more natural, because they don't feel natural to begin. It's just a lot of, get your hand moving in that direction. So how's that? So that's kind of like really super quick through day 22 and 23. If you guys have any questions, I would love to try to answer those. So that was our flourishes. What are some other things? So there was our examples of modern, and let me flip to this afternoon's pages. That way I can see if I missed anything. Oh, so this afternoon we were talking about what are some things we can do with capital letters. And so I was playing around in pencil. So one of the ways is the entry into the capital letter. We add a little swirl up there. And then when I came out on the exit stroke, I just wrapped that around. And now if your flourish is nice and fine, you can let it cross over the remainder of your word and it won't be too distracting. If you bring that down as a broad stroke, it will be distracting from the letter. Hi, Jen. So here we did a little trying to figure out monograms, which I've not done monograms, so I was not, wasn't ready for that. Here's a very exaggerated S. And then, here we go. We added one of those infinity signs under the H, but that just doesn't even look pretty. We did flourish. We came back over and crossed the S. And we had an ascender flourish here, but the joy got in the way. So those were the things that we talked about this afternoon. So if anybody has any questions before I head off for the night, I would be glad to work on that with you. Did I flip the page too quick? So no Love Your Lettering tomorrow night, no live demos tomorrow night. The next scheduled live demo will be on April the 4th. So let me write that. And I may have more information about lettering challenges for you guys in the next week or so. One of the other Tombow brand ambassadors was talking about whether some of us can collaborate for some lettering challenges. What is the rule of size of swirls and flourishes compared to letter size? Honestly, I don't know. Because for me, the flourishes are always, whoops, that was what the original name was. I like to think of them as being very exaggerated. The flourishes are just, they're kind of afterthought embellishments. So I don't think you can go too big. It depends on what the size of the paper or the project you're trying to write on is. Because it can be really fun. but a lot of times it's a matter of kind of getting that idea of the layout in your head first and maybe drawing it out with pencil, and then you can always doodle in where you think you might want to flourish and figure out how to nest those words a bit. And we're going to talk more about that in the final week when we talk about combining styles. So I'll be kind of in and out on Instagram and Periscope. I just don't know when we'll have good internet connection, so I don't want to promise a time. So if I don't see you before April 4th, those of you that are celebrating Easter this weekend, happy Easter and happy spring. Let's see, let's get... Thank you. So if I do not see you guys, have a great weekend. Happy Easter. Put pictures of the aqua brushes or water brushes that I'll use, and everyone. Hopefully the move will go smoother than expected. So I'm hoping that unpacking will be somewhat smooth, but we shall see. You never know, right? We can lay the best of plans, but I will once I know for sure. I think it's going to be me, but you know what? I can't rest on that, because if I don't do it, it's going to not get done, and he'll get the garage done first. So I don't know. I think tomorrow it's going to be a mad dash. I think getting everything done before the final walkthrough. So we'll see. And I'll keep you guys updated. You know, I'll have it on Instagram or something. So, but one other thing, so we were cleaning out things that had kind of been stowed away from when we moved in here 13 years ago. And we found my husband's old notebooks from college. He's an engineer, electrical engineer. And so he was tossing the notebooks. And before he could toss them, I pulled some pages of his handwriting and his line drawings and stuff. He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I have to save some. It's your handwriting." He goes, "It's not even neat." I'm like, "Doesn't matter. Our children don't want to see whether it was neat or not. They just want to see your handwriting." And so I think I'll have to create him some art for his new office. So I'll share that once I get to work on that. I've already got the canvases for my studio, so we'll see. There'll be lots to share in the coming weeks. Can't wait till we're settled so that I can actually work on getting forward instead of just doing repeats. So I can't wait to talk to you guys more and keep you updated. Have a great weekend. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.